Fox News national security strategist Sebastian Gorka, former Democratic Congressman Dennis Kucinich, and Fox News contributor Ari Fleischer. All right, guys, I want to reference that video that we just saw where Michael Moore is calling for 1 million people to surround the U.S. Capitol to prevent a Senate vote. And that's what it's for, to prevent the vote. And now they're talking about getting companies to move out of states if Susan Collins or Lisa Murkowski don't vote the way they want. But the most interesting, I thought, was Tom Rogers, who talked about increasing the number of justices on the court for every conservative justice who is put on. Is there, and I'm going to start with you, Ari, is there any kind of precedent to assume that if a conservative justice dies, that only a conservative can replace him, or if a swing justice retires, that we've got to put a swing person in there?
Well, of course not. There isn't. And here's the beauty of our system, Judge, and this is why I sleep so well at night. The reason Donald Trump can put whoever he wants on the Supreme Court within reason, and the Senate will confirm it, is because the American people elected Donald Trump and a Republican Senate. If the American people had elected a Democratic president and a Democratic Senate, the Democrat could have done that. These decisions are fundamentally made by the people. And our system works. That's why Donald Trump is in this position. And when the Democrats talk about going to the extremes they are, 1 million people around the Capitol, now that's Michael Moore who said it, they're talking about subverting the system so they can save their version of the system. That is not democratic. That is as wrong gets.
All right, and Dennis Kucinich, I mean, a Democratic congressman, I mean, do you look at the Democrat Party of today and say to yourself, wait a minute, they're talking about abolishing ICE. We've got people who are actually out there opposing a nominee for the Supreme Court justice when we don't even know who the person is.
Well, Judge, we have to keep in mind that Roe v. Wade is definitely a flashpoint. You have millions of American women, and men who stand with him are not going to be silent if a new Supreme Court appointee favors criminalizing abortion. The Burger Court in 1973 declared that there was a right to privacy under due process, the 14th Amendment. And I think that anything that goes beyond that balancing and creates an imbalance will cause people to mobilize all over the country.
Well, and so, Sebastian, I mean, Sebastian Gorka, what do you say to that? The concept that, you know, they're going to mobilize. It's not as though any Supreme Court nominee is going to get up there and say, I support Roe v. Wade, or I don't support Roe v. Wade, or I'm going to be an activist, or I'm not. Isn't it going to all be based on decisions that have already been written and interpretations of those?
You're the judge. You know better than anybody. This is just scare tactics. They've been pulling this out since Bork's nomination in the 1980s. Roe v. Wade, as you said, we don't even know who the president is going to nominate. This is the left. They disagree with democracy when it doesn't go their way, and they understand the stakes involved here, Judge. If we have a conservative justice appointed and then voted in by the Senate, we will inoculate the republic for at least a generation from the lunacy of the left, from the identity politics, the ideas that we don't need immigration policed on the border, the idea that you can give everything to everybody for free, the legislating from the bench that we've seen for years now. It will be defended in the Supreme Court by a constitutionalist.
For office. He said he was going to vote or put conservative justices on the Supreme Court bench. No one should be surprised. We're talking about Heritage and the Federalist Society. I mean, I can't imagine that they aren't individuals who are pro-life. But I think the significant point, Ari, is that when a Lindsey Graham gets on television yesterday and he says, you know, I don't have a problem if you're you know, what your politics are. I just don't want Roe v. Wade to be overturned. That's interesting.
Yeah, but you know, it's really what the senators think about their individual positions is not what's at stake, because the Senate positions will cancel each other out. It is the decisions made on the basis of facts presented in a court of law, and then the justices weigh in. And again, that's the way our system should work. It's not a roll call vote of the United States Senate. But what I have noticed in the past, there is a difference between the two parties. There's a litmus test in the Democratic Party, and you heard it all the time. The Democratic primaries, Democrats always say, I will not nominate anybody who isn't for gay marriage, isn't for abortion. It is an overt litmus test. Republicans typically say that they want somebody with a temperament that is proper for the bench to hear the cases and to hear them wisely. And Donald Trump has said he'll name conservatives. So, I understand the Democrats have a fear that Roe v. Wade will be overturned and the states will decide it and it'll be allowed somewhere, other places it won't. But they act as if abortion is the only thing the Supreme Court does. It is the first issue and the only issue so many Democrats talk about. It's so much broader than that, and that's why you really do want somebody who's a big thinker. And I think that's, frankly, the list that Donald Trump has put together.
And, Dennis Kucinich, I mean, there are two women on that list. And I know that they as I said, that it's almost as though, this is apocalyptic right now for the left. But nominating a woman won't make a darn bit of difference, will it, for the left?
Well, whether it's a man or a woman, and, I certainly would applaud President Trump for considering a woman to be appointed to the court. But whatever the gender of the person, one must be aware that we're at a time of great polarization in this country. And people are very afraid that some basic rights that have been constitutionally protected under the 14th Amendment, for example, for the last 45 years, could just be vitiated by a new court. So that's, we have to realize that's a concern. And what we need to do, I think, Judge, is in a larger country, polity, we need to find ways of depolarizing this whole debate over abortion and start to focus on things like prenatal care, postnatal care, child care, universal health care, living wage, and shift the debate to really show that whatever your position, we can appreciate life.
But Dennis, wouldn't you agree that part of the problem is that the left is going crazy in the event that someone is pro-life and is appointed to the bench? I mean, that's what it's about. They're making it an issue. You can sit there and say it's great, we should worry about child care. Sebastian Gorka, I'll go to you. At the end of the day, you've got Manchin, Heidi Heitkamp, Joe Donnelly. I mean, these guys are in and lady are in a tough spot right now. But let's assume that Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski decide if she's not pro-choice or he's not pro-choice, I'm not interested. What do you think the harm is going to be if these Dems in the Trump-heavy states vote for this justice?
Well, if you look at what's happened in just the last few days and weeks politically in America, it's as if the Democrat Party don't understand what happened on November the 8th, 2016. They're doubling down. The idea that you have somebody who wants to have no borders on the South, who believes that we have black sites run by ICE. These people want to now boycott cruise liners in Alaska. The Dems are so out of touch with America. It's going to be very, very good for the Republicans and the president come November and come 2020.
And there's no question, Ari, that in the end, the president will surely get his way. It's not like there's going to be that the left is going to be able to say, we want this person. President is going to nominate someone he wants. But to be realistic about it, if this second justice and when this second justice is appointed, we will have a Supreme Court that is conservative or conservative leaning, without a doubt, for the next generation.
Yeah, I'd say conservative leaning. I don't think you can say conservative yet, because I think it's a history of the Supreme Court shows they have their independent minds that they use. Justice Roberts might turn out to be a little bit moderate than people think. We just don't know. And that's why I value intellect, I value temperament, as opposed to positions previously taken. Times change, and I want to see what kind of minds our justices have. That's the most important thing on the bench. So a lot of it from both the right and the left, you can go too far ballyhooing how far change can go, and especially for an institution like the Supreme Court. We'll see.
And Dennis, with respect to the hearing itself, what do you think some of these candidates or nominees are going through right now? They're meeting with the president. 4 have met. 2 more, as I understand it, are going to be meeting with him. How do you think they communicate to him without him asking the question how conservative and supportive they would be?
I think we have to take the president at his word that he hasn't asked for a litmus test. And I think there'll just be an honest exchange, and the president will make his decision based on the interaction, I would think, from reports that I've heard from other people who have been appointed. So we'll see. But you can bet that those whose names are coming up are going to be carefully scrutinized. And keep in mind, this nomination is going to go through. We have to keep in mind that Mr. Obama's nomination of Garland was held up for 293 days. And never saw the light of day. Wow. So, look, it's politics.
Politics are rough, but in the end, I mean, at least we don't have the judicial filibuster, Sebastian Gorka, and it's just right now a majority vote. And if we, John McCain is not voting, if we lose the two that we might lose, I mean, there are three that may come over. Last word, Sebastian Gorka?
Well, to quote a certain former senator from Illinois, elections have consequences, and so does the fact that now the Republicans have the House and the Senate, and these rules are now in place. As to the president and his meetings, I know exactly what's happening. The president, as you know, Judge, has a preternatural capacity to read individuals very, very rapidly. He's meeting them. He gets a gut instinct for who these people are, and I think it's going to be one question: are they originalists? Do they look at the Constitution as talking about eternal truths? If he thinks that, then that person's going to go to the top of the list.
Originalists, textualists, constitutionalists who respect precedent and stare decisis. Gentlemen, thanks so much for being with us this evening.
Thank you.
All right. And coming up, Kellyanne Conway on how some prominent Democrats are calling for ICE to be abolished. Plus, Michelle Malkin and Florida Attorney General Pam Bondi on the left continuing to verbally attack women in the Trump administration. Stay with us.